Does God design some people to be handicapped and or diseased, or is this a consequence of the fall? Well, according to the Bible, this is something that God actually does. In Psalm 139:16 we read, "Your eyes beheld my unformed substance. In your book were written all the days that were formed for me, when none of them as yet existed." According to the psalmist, all of our days are actually pre-planned by the Father. In fact, that's why the proverb says that a man plans his future, but the Lord directs his steps. Now I can hear some of you already shouting at the phone saying, well, this doesn't mean that God literally created some people to be handicapped or diseased, but you would be incorrect. If you go to Exodus 4, when God calls Moses and he claims that he shouldn't be the spokesman because he's not a good speaker, this is what God says. Moses replied, "O my Lord, I have never been eloquent, neither in the past nor even now that you have spoken to your servant, but I am slow of speech and tongue." Then the Lord said to him, "Who gives speech to mortals? Who makes them mute or deaf, seeing or blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now go, and I will be with your mouth and teach you what you are to speak." And even the NRSV that I'm reading here doesn't actually do the passage justice. It says, "Who gives speech to mortals? Who makes them mute or deaf, seeing or blind?" Makes is the appropriate word. Who makes them? Now, the more direct way to say that God made something would be to use the verb Assa. Like when it says that God made man in his image, it uses the verb Assa. But what we actually have in this passage is three different usages of the verb sam or sum, depending on how it's conjugated. And this is not really what you would expect, but it means to put into place or to set. And I think what the author is getting at here is that God doesn't just make people deaf or blind. He has pre-planned, he has set into place these people to be blind or deaf or mute. I think it entails some sort of precognition more than just randomly doing or making. And of course, that would fit perfectly with what we read in Exodus 4, because Moses is saying, "No, God, you got the wrong guy. I'm not good at speaking." And God says, "No, no, no, no. I'm the one that sets these things in place. You don't have to worry about it." So the fact of the matter is, God is literally telling you that according to his somehow divine will, he has designed people to be handicapped. And we can also use an entailment to suggest that this probably includes people that are born with various diseases as well. And of course, I would add that God is the potter and we are the clay. That's why we read in Romans 9, verse 20, "Who indeed are you, O human, to argue with God? Who what is molded say to the one who molds it, why have you made me like this? Has the potter no right over the clay to make out of the same lump one object for special use and another for ordinary use?" And then, of course, he goes on to talk about how some people are literally just created to be vessels of God's wrath, because God is oh so good. So the next time you blame Adam and Eve for some sort of sickness or disease, you can actually just put the blame where it actually belongs, right on God.